had one business owner. He was nearly in tears as he begged me to buy his business. Sadly, his health had fallen off really quick, and he didn't really have a business to sell since he did everything himself. And to make things worse, he was off for many months due to his poor health. And the customers he did have, they had to find other businesses to service their needs. So there wasn't even a customer list worth purchasing at this point. I know he wanted his business to continue, to be there in the community, but I was just unable to justify the real modest asking price he had for his 45-year-old business. So think about that, 45 years, nothing to sell. Nothing to sell because the owner, he quit working it. He did all the work in the business himself, and so he didn't own a business, he owned his job. And when he quit showing up to that job, it disappeared. This is from chapter 35 from my book, which is written like you're embarking on a family vacation. And it appears that your journey is coming to an end, and it's time to head home. So do you casually work your way toward home while maybe stopping at interesting places you find on the way? Or do you put the hammer down and drive full throttle nonstop until you're back home where you can sleep in your own bed? A lot of times on vacation, we'll just continue at our casual pace, I guess you'd say, stopping at places, exploring, not really worried about the time. But there are other times, my new goal is I'm sleeping in my own bed tonight. And if I've decided that, my bottom stays glued to that driver's seat, and we push on with minimal stops till I can get back to my own bed. So there'll be times in your business journey that you'll have to head home. And hopefully it's a casual drifting towards the goal, an upcoming retirement that you've planned out, or say an exit strategy to sell your business, at your choice and timing, and especially your price. But, sadly, there are times that this will need to be done quickly because of your failing health. Hopefully your business is a business that someone will want to buy. And, many business owners do not have a business. And if you don't have a business, you can't sell it because you are the business. So if you do all the work in your business, then you do not have a business, you have a job. And this job will quickly dissolve once you quit showing up. Multiple business owners have approached me, if I'd buy their business when their health started failing. But most of them didn't really have anything to sell. They had equipment, a building, customer list, but there was no turnkey systems in place. The owner did everything. The months that they were off because of their health already started the demise of their company. And what little value it had was, eaten up already. I had that one business owner, his voice, he was nearly in tears as he begged me to buy his business. His health had failed, and, he didn't have a business to sell because he did everything. And then, of course, he'd been off work for many, many months, and his customers were already used to finding another service. So there wasn't even a customer list at that point that was worth a darn. I know he wanted to sell his business so it would continue serving the community, but I couldn't justify, it was really a modest asking price, for a 45-year-old business. But he just watched it dissolve in front of his eyes. So 45 years of work, nothing to sell. There were a few business owners that I had bought some equipment from, when they went through the same similar hardship. And others, I bought their customer list. And I had one that we worked out a deal as their customers called him. He would give a personal invitation to call me. And it was pretty much like it was him doing the jobs. And that worked out really well. But, usually, the customer list of a small business is really of very little value because the customers probably chose it because they like the person they were working with. They like the owner. If these business owners had nothing of value to sell, most of them closed their doors, without communicating to their customers. Others at least forward their remaining customers to a friend in the industry. They struggled, with their health issues, and then they'd try to sell their equipment or building for whatever amount they could get, which at that point, they're desperate and couldn't get full market value. I remember a carpet installer, he just died, and then his widow was trying to sell stuff to get money, and he just had a truck and tools, and there's money there, but not a lot of money. So that's not a very good strategy for all the years that you've worked hard. And a lot of times, these small businesses that have no retirement accounts, and they only receive what the government offers, which isn't much. So that these business owners knew that someday they'd be coming home because their business journey would end, but they didn't prepare for it. Though you love your business and you think you'll never want to retire, there'll be a time that you need to exit the business to do something else. Maybe retirement so you can travel or spend more time with family, or because of poor health. And it'll force you to sell, or your business will just dissolve right in front of you. So, at some point you will come home, and you need to prepare for it. So build your business so there's a business to sell. And, so it's just not a job that you own. So create a profitable business that will attract buyers. And this is really the true goal of a business owner. Prepare for this because it's coming. I still think about that business owner nearly in tears, 45 years of hard work, poured his life into that business, or really his job, and then his health failed, and there was nothing to sell, except a little bit of equipment and a building. Nothing to show for all those years of work. He begged me to buy it, and I couldn't, because there was nothing to buy. And that's a reality for most small business owners. They build a job, not a business. And when they can no longer show up to that job, it dissolves. So this is what I've learned about preparing to come home, build a business that runs without you. If you do all the work, you don't have a business, you have a job, and you can't sell a job. So create your turnkey systems, hire people, train them, build processes, make your business valuable. Second, customer list, they have little value if the customers only like the owners. Like I said, I've bought some customer lists, and but usually those customers only like the owners because they didn't build a system. Third, when a health crisis happens, usually comes fast, and it'll destroy value quickly. And, I've had several come to me, during their bad health. They already were months off of work. By that time, the small businesses had nothing to offer, except a little bit of equipment and a building. So fourth, prepare for the exit now. Retirement day is coming, either because of poor health or because you choose to do something else. So, whatever the reason, there'll be a time for you to come home and to complete your business journey. So build something of value, and when the time comes, when your business journey ends, hopefully you've prepared properly an exit where maybe you can get a nice chunk of money from all the time invested. And so this will leave you with a peace of mind knowing that your family will be taken care of, or maybe even that your business will continue serving the community. But, if you don't prepare, you'll be like that one business owner, 45 years of hard work, nearly in tears, nothing to sell. Don't let that be you. I'm Brian Hill. This is chapter 35, Time to Come Home, from my book, Business is a Journey, Not a Destination, and this journey is your life. Be sure to subscribe for the remaining chapters and more business and faith content. In the final chapter, we're talking about the person that you become in your journey. So prepare to come home, because you will come home at some time, either by choice or not. Thanks for watching.